All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Not So Wide Divide. I am here today with my counterpart, Mr. No Block.
Good morning.
Mr. Tory Brown couldn't be with us this morning, but we do have, hopefully, a long-term help here. Mr. Brendan Bajeron.
Good morning.
He's going to be our, if you ever listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, he's going to be our Jamie.
Yeah, like our fact checker.
That's it. He's going to look stuff
Google
up.
master.
We can continue to talk. So, of course, everybody that has watched us and listened to us since the beginning of this is known that we have taken a little hiatus.
It's been a while.
It definitely wasn't on purpose.
No.
It's not something we want to do. We enjoy this. It is like we always say, something that we love to do. But just because of personal and local and just issues, we couldn't get together. But hopefully we're going to get this back and get it back in routine and have it scheduled. So today's going to kind of be just a spitball kind of episode. We're going to kind of hit some just national topics and things that we've in text and in kind of passing conversations amongst. I can't say ourselves because we really haven't spoken much in the last 6 months. But just things that are going on in the public today. We're going to give our opinions and give our 2 cents on it. So where you want to go with it, Cody?
Well, I see Brendan's got the slap her around the world pulled up. I don't know if you want to start there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to take us too long because pretty much.
No, I mean it's. I don't even know. I'm over it. Like I am. Like yes.
Right.
I think the most recent thing was that he's been banned by the Academy for 10 years, which he had already resigned from it. So they had to take action, but you ban somebody that's no longer in the Academy.
Right.
So it's kind of like now you can't even show up as a guest, which, okay. But what truly does that do?
Well, look, this is my thing. And this is where we may differ a little bit. If you're not going to hold other actors accountable for their out of movie actions, I know what Will Smith did was at the Academy Awards, and I get that, but I think 10 years is harsh. I do. I don't see them punishing other actors for if they get arrested or they get, they don't ban them like that. As far as to my knowledge, from the Academy like that, it doesn't negate his performance.
Well, and Brandon might be able to check this out, but I think there's only been in recent history, there's only been 2 other people that have been banned from the Academy, and that's Roman Polanski, who was the convicted child sex producer abuser.
Right, nobody's gonna argue that one.
No, and then Weinstein.
Which again,
the Me Too, who started the Me Too thing.
But those are 2 enormously egregious instances.
Yeah, and that was and they weren't there's no time, they were just banned.
Yeah, for life.
Yeah,
which they should be, right? 100%.
So it's I don't know what you compare it to. I don't know what you. How do you justify, like you said, justify the 10 years? I don't know what is it. What does the ban do? How does it affect him? He just can't go to the show?
Well, I don't think he's eligible for any kind of Academy Awards either. Which, look, when's the last time that you based a viewing of a movie off of its Academy Award, list?
You don't.
Right.
I can tell you, until recently, the last 2 years recently, before that, there was probably a 10 or 15 year stretch that I remember the motion picture of the year I never saw.
Right.
Because it was nobody knows what that. It wasn't a mainstream.
And they weren't choosing it to, in my opinion, they weren't choosing it for its quality. There were it's a message and those type of things is what they were. Look, I think the most accurate meme, because of course I love the online memes. I think the most accurate meme that I saw for me was if Will Smith had not slapped Chris Rock, I'd have never known the Academy Awards was even on television.
Yes, no doubt.
And that to me, that was the truest meme I think that I saw because I really wouldn't have.
I didn't even know it was at the Academy Awards. when I got, you get alerts when things happen. Breaking news, I get a breaking news alert, and I look and I'm like, when the hell did Will Smith slap Chris Rock?
Right.
And it was literally like, and then I Googled it, and it was like 2 minutes ago. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that this was. So you're 100% right in saying I believe that's probably, maybe it's definitely majority of the world, because I don't think that
they've been tanking. Their ratings have been tanking for years.
Yeah. But it doesn't hurt his pocket.
No.
Right? Like, because he's not eligible for an Academy Award. Okay. I mean, I don't know how many he's ever even been nominated. And look, I like Will Smith as an actor.
I do too.
I like every movie he makes, the comedies or dramas, they're great movies.
Yeah, he's a good actor. Like the movies that and granted, like I haven't seen every one of his films.
Yeah, me neither.
But the ones that I have seen, I think he's a good actor.
Yeah.
You know?
Even the ones that didn't get like rave reviews, like the one that he did with his son in that
sci-fi, where they go to a different planet or something.
Yeah,
I actually seen
it. Was a pretty good movie,
yeah.
but that got horrible reviews and ratings.
But I mean, you got to take those reviews with a grain of
Oh
salt.
yeah, I know, but I don't see. Yeah, you can discipline them, and they had to do something, like you said.
Right.
There's no doubt. But how is this? This is not gonna. It's not gonna affect him. I mean, it hurts his reputation. I think it's going to hurt his ability for people that want to work with him.
It may, yes.
Because it's going to be like, man, that was like truly disrespectful. And I get his apologies, and I understand. Like, I'm not sold that
his actions is what's going to hurt his pocketbook, because it's going to hurt his marketability.
Yeah.
Right. But him getting banned from the Oscars. It's just the Oscars' way of trying to remain relevant, I think. Like, it's not, nobody gives a crap about the Oscars, And
besides Hollywood.
Right, besides Hollywood. Yeah. And it's just them giving awards to themselves,
And I think that there's, great actors and actresses that when they finally do win that, it means a lot to them.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Their circle, and, it's kind of like the ESPYs, right? If you're not in sports, you don't watch the ESPYs, and it doesn't matter.
And I'm sure it probably, it's one more, notch on their belt, or one more page on their resume when it comes to their agents trying to get them jobs.
It's a legacy maker,
right? Like I don't know if Will Smith would be able to pull this show off. You're talking about 2 or 3-time Academy Award winner, So
yeah.
I get that. Like, Tom Hanks could play anything,
yep.
Right? So, I mean, I understand that, that part of it, that it is a resume builder. But as far as to the fans, I can care less how many. I just want to watch the show, believe that you are the character that you're portraying, right, and be entertained for the hour and a half, 2 hours that I'm watching a movie. That's it.
I agree.
I don't want to hear about your politics. I don't want to hear about any of that. I just want to go there, get entertained, escape from reality for 2 hours, and that's it.
And look, I'm personally okay with learning about your politics, because if I like your movies and I like what you do and you can play, like, I do want to know you as a person.
I don't.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to understand that individual.
I don't, because it curbs my opinion of the person.
But see, that's where I differ, because it doesn't. Because I don't judge you based on your politics.
Now, listen, I don't like. Okay, so I guess since we're talking about Will Smith, I'll just use him as an example. If Will Smith came out and had the exact same political views that I have, it's not going to make me want to go watch his movies more, right? To an extent, like, I'm not. If he comes out against it, it's not going to really make me want to watch his movies that much less. But when I'm watching it, that stuff's in the back of my mind, and I don't want to think about it. Like I said, I go to the movies because I want to escape from the normalities of things.
So why do you even talk about politics if it doesn't? Because we talk about politics a lot.
I'm not an actor.
No. So it's you can only talk about politics if you run a certain.
They can absolutely talk about whatever they want to. I just don't care.
No, I get that.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't care. I don't care. And I don't want it bleeding over into the content of my movies.
That's you're allowed that to bleed over, not them.
No. I'm talking about some of the blatant. And look, we talked about this in past podcasts, like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and that whole.
I understand.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't.
But that's not the actor, though.
No, it's not. That's just Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean that's the the writers, the producers, the people that are directing how that happens.
Like people bash Liam Neeson for his anti-gun views, but most of his movies are about guns. I don't care. Like, as long as his movie's good, I'm good.
But see,
I don't want to. Like, I don't need to know all that stuff about him.
I like to know that because it makes me just feel even better that I have somebody that can separate the difference.
Look, that's I guess that's kind of the point I'm getting at is that they can, but I just, to me, when I'm watching his movies, it kind of makes it that much more unbelievable for me because I know now that he's against all these guns he's using, right? Versus, God dang it, I'm catching a brain fart. John Wick, Keanu Reeves. Reeves trains. He's a martial artist. He probably put in more time than I think any actor I've seen in actual learn how to operate a gun and use it in combat type scenarios.
Wesley Snipes is another one like that.
Right, Wesley Snipes, phenomenal. Yep. And when those actors do have it, it's more believable, right? Like the actions they're doing, and I have no idea where Keanu Reeves or Wesley Snipes' politics are, and that's all I like it. Like the characters I'm seeing, and if you want to talk about some of your off-camera stuff, like I love that Keanu Reeves is such a giving person. Like that stuff makes me want to go watch his movies. I don't care where he lines up politically.
Yeah.
Those
it's funny you said, so I don't know if you ever seen there's a very I don't remember what show he was on, but people try to get Keanu Reeves to talk about politics and to talk about his personal beliefs in a lot of things. And the guy asked him, he said, so what do you believe happens to you when you die? Because nobody knows Keanu's religious beliefs or political beliefs. And there was a good 8-second, 10-second pause. And on TV time, that's a long
that's a
time.
lot of dead space. Right.
And he finally looks at the guy and he says, you know what I believe when you die? Is that everybody around you is going to miss you.
He's a master.
And it was like, yeah, that's exactly right. Like, he didn't, and he elaborated on it for a few seconds, but it was like
the master of the hover hand. Have you seen you've seen his pictures and stuff when he's taking pictures with women?
Oh yeah, he puts his hands
the hover hand, bro. Like he does not touch them.
Nobody.
Right. He just that's the kind of stuff I like, man. Like if you're gonna give me a window to the person behind the actor, that's the stuff I care about. It's not your political views or your religious beliefs. It's just you as a person, I guess.
I agree, but I think that the politics is you don't have to get on a pulpit and preach it,
right?
But it's okay to stand up for what you believe in.
Look, I have no problem if like an actor believes in global warming and they want to donate some of their money to combating global. I don't care, but I don't want to hear about it. Like every interview you give, I don't want to hear about how bad I am because I've got a NASCAR.
I mean. You can definitely support your cause and talk about it. Yeah. You don't have to get on a pulpit every time and preach it. I kind of tend to agree with you on that. I don't know, because I look at it, if I had a platform.
Right. And look, I understand
if not,
all that.
You don't.
I get all that. I just
something ain't right. But let's move on to something else, because I don't want to beat a dead horse when it comes to this Will Smith and the Hollywood thing, because it's honestly not something that I.
Brandon, were you able to find anything on the Academy banning other actors?
Yeah. So, like Jared said, there was only a handful. Actor Carmine Cardi, first person to be booted from the Academy after he found he had pirated screeners for
dissemination on the internet. Yeah. Okay.
When was that?
That was in 2004.
Harvey Weinstein, we all know him.
Yep.
All right, Bill Cosby. Yeah. But I guess that kind of just goes to further my point that
he's been the only one that, like I said, that's been because of something that's kind of questionable.
Right. I mean, it's not questionable what he did, but I think it's a harsh penalty for
Everything else is like criminal acts, and again, the whole
we
slap
know
could
it's
be,
criminal, right?
I'm not saying, but I mean truly like piracy and child porn and like all
in
these
the grand scheme of hierarchy of criminal offenses, a slap is like I mean, you got I mean, I don't want to get to
like
the
there's
long list.
worse criminals in the crowd.
Right, and that's my point. Right, 100%. Yeah,
like legitimately, like So
regarding how it affects him, so far he's had 2 movies that have been put on hold. One for Netflix and one for Sony.
Right.
I did see that.
But that's what I'm saying. His actions are going to cost him monetarily.
But it was
it's not going to
put
be
on
the freaking Academy.
They're going to sit there and say, we're going to give this 6 months.
Yeah.
And we're going to see,
especially they started filming already? Oh, yeah.
Like it's on hold. They've already spent the money. It's already budgeted. It's still Will Smith.
Look, I'm going to tell you like this. That's not going to affect me going watch a Will Smith movie. It's not. And I'm trying to be as honest as I can.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Now, I'll tell you this. Prior to this, Chris Rock was not one of my favorites. Because he made some comments on one of his comedy specials that I turned it off right after he freaking made it. His handling of this entire situation has given me a better light of Chris Rock. And I'm more inclined to give his material a second chance because of it. So I thought he handled it classy. And I thought he handled it properly. Right, the villain to me in this is Will Smith's wife, and in the whole totality of everything that happened, I feel sorry for Will Smith. That's my closing statements and all that.
Yeah, I guess I don't know enough about it in totality to make any judgment beyond what we've already said. But I would agree with you on the Chris Rock thing. I've always liked Chris Rock. I don't know what you're speaking about in his special.
I don't want to misquote him.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. I've always liked him. But just to echo what you said, I think his handling of it, how he's addressed it, the apology, how he handled the exact. I don't know many guys that would have stood up there and
not just lost it, bro. Like, oh my God.
It would have not, at least, I'm not saying retaliated, but at least gone back. He was like, all right, man, I will. Like, it was a joke. Like, he didn't immediately defend it. He was just like, all right. Like, he realized that he may have crossed the line, at least in some of the eyes.
But my whole thing with him crossing the line, and again, we get into these rabbit holes, and we that's why I tip a topic, Brennan. You're gonna see, man, that a lot of these topics we might plan for 15 minutes, and we end up talking for 3 hours on it.
I've heard before.
So my issue is socially, we've gotten to a point where I think we try to construe words as acts of violence upon someone, and it's not. And when somebody takes offense to that, to words that are said, and retaliates in fold with an act of violence upon somebody, then as a society they tend to think that might be a little more acceptable, right? And it shouldn't be. Like, I mean, it goes back to when we were kids with sticks and stones, in the context of where they were, the fact that he was telling a joke. Like I said, I don't have a problem if he goes too far with his joke in Will Smith's eyes, and Will stands up and says, "Hey man, keep my wife's name out your mouth," not cool. And he says it again, and he loses his temper, and a curse word slips out, which I think is freaking hilarious that he won't curse in his rap songs, but in the middle of an Oscar Academy thing, he'll curse.
Drop some F-bombs, right, like, in a heartbeat.
Right. And then he does it again in a conversation happens backstage. Again, it's just words, but I would be a whole lot more sympathetic to his actions, right? I think it was uncalled for. And like I said, I think Chris Rock handled it properly.
I agree. I think he, like I said, I'll echo exactly that same thought when it comes to Chris Rock. I I don't know. I just, like you said, I'm over it. I knew we were going to touch on it, and I mean, we were on it 20 minutes and probably 17 minutes too long. But so what's some other? I know we texted. We'll kind of jump and we'll make we'll make these some little sub episodes, right? So we'll kind of clip that out and we'll clip some other.
Yeah.
Just so everybody is watching that. Like the video is going to be in its totality, of course, but we will create some kind of mini episodes to go along with the full episode, just to make it, just to drag it out a little bit, so we can, because we don't have as much airtime as we would like. But I do want to talk about the transgender college swimmer. I don't know the name. I don't know.
Leah Thompson.
Leah Thomas or whatever.
Leah Thomas. Is that's her name?
Brandon, while we're talking about that, if you can pull up for me, because I think people need to realize this when we're talking about this whole situation. Can you pull up the NCAA rules on transgender athletes? If you can find that, it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to find. Well, I guess maybe not for me, but for our Google Master, it's like 2 seconds.
That's right. Well, I put NCAA trans, and transgender policy came up right away.
I looked for it.
It's being looked up,
right?
Yeah.
So that must be what it is. But I'm going off of memory here. But what I'm getting at, and maybe we can, as we discuss it, Brennan can kind of find the segments on there where it's at. It's my understanding that a transgender athlete has to declare, not prove, has to declare that they're on gene therapy for a year prior to competing, and then when they test their testosterone levels can be twice as much as a female competitor's testosterone.
So the first line I'm reading here, NCAA athlete, transgender athletes first must undergo sex reassignment surgery, including changes in external genitalia. Secondly, athletes must show legal.
But that's not. Leah Thomas didn't go through.
I don't know. I never seen it. Right. I can't, and I don't know if publicly if she's said she has or not. But this is just what it's saying.
Right.
And it says, secondly, athletes must show legal recognition of their gender, which means that they've legally. You can't change it on your birth certificate unless you've gone through the assignment. So, secondly, they have to show legal recognition of their gender change. So,
because
again,
the ruling that I read, and granted, this was like right after the whole Leah Thomas thing, was because some of this is left up to individual sports, right?
It's also left up to individual. So the NCAA has this big blanket policy.
Right.
Every, Big 12, SEC, every conference can, as long as you, kind of like federal law, state law, like as long as you do this blank thing, you can,
right.
But
for as far as my understanding, the swimming is done under USA Swim, and their policy is way less than this.
I'm trying to find something just about like either hormone or gene therapy.
I just was reading something on that one that you had up.
At Brennan's.
Oh, Brennan. Yeah, any transgender athlete was not taken. Yeah, see, I haven't. This is the first time I get to read that one. Updated one.
This one right here is from 2022. Updated transgender policy.
All right, I see it up here. I see that's for the winter championships too. That's when those rules take effect.
That's when it starts.
Right, and I haven't read those.
Yeah, these are apparently brand new.
Right, and then the full implementation will begin in the 2023-2024 academic year. And look, they may have fixed some of those loopholes that were in there, and hopefully so. But it still doesn't fix the issue of when an adolescent goes through puberty with testosterone in their system, like a male. There's certain inherent advantages that you get that don't go away, right?
Absolutely.
Bone density, height, fast twitch muscles, and the list goes on and on. I also read like a scientific paper. I wish I'd screenshotted it or emailed. I'm going to start doing that when I read these things. It's something like 5% of muscle loss is all that. Like for a year of gene therapy, the average man loses like up to 5% muscle mass, and that's it. Like it's not like it's some big dramatic loss. Like it's.
Now, look, I do believe in 20 years from now, when you have, because it's policy now at this point. And so I think in 20 years from now,
You're not going to have women's sports. I agree with you.
well, you're going to have asterisks by a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
But I also believe that you will have, because people that are trans, at least nowadays you're seeing it. There's a I don't want to say it. There's a fairly large percentage of young people that are identifying as trans that are going through these gene therapies and these hormone changes prior to puberty.
Which I think
Right?
is freaking atrocious.
So
It should be illegal.
if that happens and that transgender male or female competes in sports in 20 years, then there's going to be no, you're not going to see.
Well, I'd have to see that. I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
you're not going to see. There's not going to.
We would have to wait and see.
That's
on
good.
that.
Yeah, it's going to be a long-term experiment.
Right.
And I don't mean that like,
I know what you mean.
It's,
Like,
the experimental people. No. I'm just saying it's going to be a long-term experiment.
I mean,
this is going to be a 10 or 15
theorizing
years.
that if you took a pre-puberty adolescent male and started him on estrogen and testosterone blockers prior to puberty, what does his body look like?
You'll see that in the next couple of years.
Right, and that's
there's some, already. TLC has a couple specials that.
But to me, I don't think you should be able to do that to a pre-puberty young person. Their minds flip-flop so much. You're doing permanent. I don't want to say damage, but I mean, you're making permanent changes
Yeah.
to that person. But both with the chemical makeup in their brains, and the actual physical development of their body. That if they change their mind, it's almost like, sorry, it's too late. We're going to allow a juvenile to make a choice like that, but they can't smoke a cigarette.
Because it hurts your body.
They can't drink a beer.
So you're 21 now and smoking cigarettes, right?
Well, that's. I mean, it's still in the process of the law books catching up, but yeah. So we're putting those kind of stipulations on, but it's okay to go through gene or gender reassignment surgery as a kid. Like it's freaking insane to me. The hypocrisies we have in these type of decisions. Like it blows my mind, man. I don't know. I don't look. As far as men competing in women's sports, I'm 100% against that. I don't agree with it. I don't think that it should be allowed. And I would say, if you're going to argue with me, how many women who have reassigned as men are going to win championships in men's sports? You don't see it going the other way around.
But not just winning. Like, you're not just like winning a meet here or there. Like this transgender athlete went from the
456 or something like that ranked male
to the national champion in women's swimming in crushing competition.
Oh yeah.
Just blowing them out the water, literally.
Yeah.
So, look, I would love to, and that's going to be another episode we get into true, transgender and reassignment, and but this is just the the celebration of this national championship breaking boundaries, and man, it really just made me like I had a
Where's a lot of women
activists?
activists?
They're there because that's but they're not getting discussed. They're not getting heard. Every woman that I've talked to about it, every person that, even the wokest of woke, right? People that I know, and when you talk to them about it, and they say, "Well, I'm happy for her," and I'm like, "Well, I'm happy for her too. I'm happy she's happy," but at the expense of so many other women that have been competing and swimming their entire life.
And he took somebody's spot.
For sure.
You know? What did they have, like 7 swimmers? That poor 8th swimmer.
Yeah.
Who's an actual biological woman that he took her spot. You know,
see,
then you start talking about scholarships.
I'm more worried about the number 1 and number 2. Like or the 2 and 3 in this case. Like the ones that should have truly been competing for that national champion.
But you start talking about, and I'm not sure about swimming, but I'll use something like wrestling that I'm familiar with on how being an All-American and stuff works, right? So if you make it, I think, to the top 16, I want to say it is, during the NCAA tournament, you become an All-American. And that is a lifetime achievement for a lot of these young athletes. That's things that when they go try to be coaches in college or they try to open up their own gyms, that when you're trying to choose a wrestling school to send your kid to, and you can send it to, you know, ABC Wrestling, or this one has an All-American collegiate coach, those things have weight. And I don't know about swimming, if the top 8 or the top whatever are All-Americans, but I mean, it has ramifications past you. And I agree with you. I feel really bad for the top 3, you know, swimmers that now they're the top 4, right?
Well, yeah, but they were competing, like, that could have been either one of their championships.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but it affects even
the bottom rungs too, because those people, you know, he could have robbed. I'm sure he did rob at least one person of being an All-American swimmer. He robbed somebody, I'm sure, of a scholarship, and he's like I said, I think there's 7 swimmers or 8 swimmers, whatever. Some young lady who worked her entire life to get to that point missed out on an opportunity, and I think that the girl even spoke out in social media, but robbed her of an opportunity to be able to compete in the championship swim meet. You know?
Yeah. I don't know an alternative. I don't know a solution, and I'm that person that I know you do.
It's not an alternative.
That's exactly.
It's a compete against guys.
Yeah.
And if you're a 400-something swimmer, be proud that of all the swimmers in the world or in the United States, you're ranked 456. I mean, hey, man, you know,
she was still a scholarship athlete. Right. So I mean, it's still something, like you said, to be proud of. It's still something that you can stand by and hold your hat to.
It's still something I was looking for a swim coach for my child. You know, and look, I was a scholarship athlete at in college for Division 1 or whatever school. Like, well, yeah, you obviously know how to swim.
Yep.
You know, like, I don't know. It blows my mind, right? That we think that's okay. Not we, but as a
no, I agree. My thing is that it just like I said, the celebration.
We're looking for sponsors.
We'll take community too.
Yeah, community.
Yeah,
whatever.
we've been trying to get community.
Yeah, we'll take what's this? Great Value Water. We got
Walmart. Going big time, baby. But yeah, I don't understand that how, like you said, where are the women at? And they're there, but nobody is giving them a platform to speak on. You know, and even more importantly for me is like, where are these women, these Olympic women athletes? You know, that said. Because I even said, like, so Katie Ledecky was like the Michael Phelps in the women's swimming. And I would love to get her take on it. Because, like, this transgender athlete is not far behind her Olympic records.
Right. And she was having to swim against this dude.
Well, she's retired now at this point.
Well, like somebody
he's going to break all her records.
Right.
And, like, she was, records are made to be broken. Like, yeah, whatever. But for somebody in the same stature, for somebody, like this in there.
You're right. Not that's why I was born. I was born a guy.
Yeah.
You know, like I just.
And what's even more crazy to me when we're talking about swimming is that this is even crossed into mixed martial arts.
Oh, absolutely.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, we're literally celebrating a man beating up on women.
Yeah.
Well, not us, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like
wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you remember, like, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but they had a Texas wrestler that did that. A boy in high school, and of course he won the Texas State Women's Wrestling Championship in whatever weight class he was competing against girls, because he claimed he was a female. Yep.
That's nuts.
That was before all this stuff's been going on.
I know you're keep up on MMA stuff, but Chris Cyborg, Like she was beating the pants off before Ronda Rousey was.
Right, right.
She was beating and she was questioned, like, is she like a man? Like, could she have been? Because she was. I mean, her stature, her build.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a little lax. I don't want to say lax.
Well, they tested her. Like she had to go through testing.
They test all of them for testosterone because it's such a huge advantage in sports.
Yeah. Well, no, they tested her XY chromosome.
Oh, did they?
Yes. Because they were like, because when she had first started out in I don't know, X-Force or Strike, one of the off brands, if you will. Right. And then when she was trying to make that transition into UFC and trying to get, and people really, she was becoming more mainstream, like, people like were questioning it. And I don't know if it was one of the agencies or one of the the governing bodies that said, hey, we need to before we move any further.
Let's just put this to bed right
exactly.
now. Right.
I don't know if it was mandatory, but she got a test and like here it is. This is
Yeah, she may have just done it on her own.
She may have. But it was funny because after that, like if you go back and you and you look up like pictures from her from like late '90s or early 2000s, and then kind of where was at. She went from this jacked up.
Oh yeah,
like
I'm sure testosterone.
She's leaned down a whole lot. Right. She's she's way more feminine, structure and build, and even her jawline has come down.
Well, look, it's not a secret, man. Like if you allowed testosterone or steroids, in sports, every one of those athletes would be taken. And they try to find ways around it, and they'll push those testosterone levels to the exact max, just right underneath where they're supposed to be. So I mean, but it's that big of an advantage.
I mean, look, like Lance Armstrong,
right? I mean, that testosterone is that big of an advantage.
He went from being, sports. He was still a competitor in the Tour de France,
right?
But when he started cycling and started doing all this stuff,
dominate.
He was 10-time, and everybody's like, well, how? And he was like, well, it's because I had cancer. Like, wait, what? You had cancer and got better?
Oh, yeah, that's all it was. It's like a mutant ability.
But, I mean, look, poor Lance. No, not poor Lance, but his downfall was rough. Like another rabbit hole. But, yeah, so I think we're all on that same agreement when it comes to these transgender athletes. Look, you want to compete. I get it. And there's got to be a place for it in today's day and age. I kind of, at this point, I want to say what Cody says and be like, you just need to compete with your biological sex.
All right, yeah, that's
good, bad, or ugly, no matter where you fall into that. Even if you got to wear a swimsuit to, it's different than the other because of, I get it, but damn, you can't take away, because I look at, like, I have Cody as well. Like, I have a daughter, and she's into sports. Mm-hmm. And she plays with the boys. Like right now, plays flag football. She's the only girl on it. Last year, she had 4 girls on her team. This year, she's the only one.
Right. And as she gets older and testosterone starts becoming a factor,
This is where I'm going with it. Even right now. Last year, she's a beast.
Right.
Like she was keeping up with everybody. And now, she's in the bottom half of, and this is in 1 year. And I keep telling her, like, and she wants to play with them. Like, she doesn't want, and there's no, like, all-girls flag football.
Right.
But, like, when she's on the all-girls basketball team, she's one of the best on the team. Like, she's very athletic. She's really good. But I'm like, if you want to continue to play with these boys, you have to work harder than them. And I'm not telling you that because I'm your dad. But you have to stay competitive because they are naturally, they're going to do nothing and get better than you.
I mean, look, it goes back. You can go back to some of our previous podcasts we had when we first started. We spent a few minutes talking about wrestling on one of our podcasts because I'm a wrestling coach, and I said it then. When you get to a certain weight class, I am a full believer that girls can be competitive with boys. Right, but once you start getting into your higher weight classes, where that muscle mass starts becoming a lot more prevalent, it's. I'm not saying it's impossible, right? Like, I mean, we
extremely unlikely.
I mean, we used to get our tails whooped in tennis, by our top girl, right? So it's not impossible, but that's not the norm, right? I'm sure there's 160 pound, 170 pound. Female collegiate wrestlers that can come and mop the floor with our state Louisiana State Championship 160-pound wrestler, right? But when you start talking about college levels, she's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the difference, right? Yes, certain sports and in certain situations, a female can beat a guy, right? But when you start talking about that top level, that's why there's a different men's and women's categories. You know, and
I agree. You can find, even on a professional level, in majority of sports, you can find an elite woman that can beat most of the men.
I don't even know about most.
You know, well, I'm saying like tennis, for example. Like if you take the top 2 or 3 female tennis players.
The Williams sisters. I think they did it something like this in tennis.
Well, Billie Jean King's the only one that's actually played a man, like in a competitive tennis match. You know, like that's what it was called, Battle of the Sexes.
I want to say they might have done something. I don't know. Just see what you
take
can find.
them. And what I'm saying is that I think they will take out 70% of the men.
I don't think it's that much. Not on a professional level.
No, definitely.
Like if you're talking about 70% of all men's tennis players, absolutely.
No,
but
professional tennis.
I don't think so.
Like if you take the top 10, no, maybe not the top 10, because that's I'm saying the bottom 70%. So if there's 100 women, 100 men, they can beat the bottom 70. The top 30 they may have trouble with.
I don't know if it's even that high, bro. Seriously.
Yeah.
You're talking about somebody that can serve a tennis ball, 130 miles an hour. You know.
I get it, but it's also not. I mean, and that's why I'm using tennis as an example. Basketball, probably the same. I don't think it's. I think it narrows a little bit. When it comes to basketball, you can. The best female athlete is not going to beat any starter in the NBA on a one-on-one.
Oh no!
You know what I'm saying?
But I'll go. You take your best WNBA player. She can probably make a practice squad.
Oh, for sure.
Or
I think she can make a team.
Maybe even make a team.
Yeah. No doubt, she can make a team. I think you could take a handful of WNBA players, and they will make an NBA team.
Right. I'm not trying to take away that they would whoop the floor with me.
Oh.
I'm not trying to take anything.
They probably beat me in every sport, not just basketball.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about an elite athlete. I'm not trying to take anything, but when you start comparing an elite women's athlete and an elite men's athlete, there's a reason why there's a WNBA and not just an NBA.
Title IX exists for a reason.
Right. And it's not. I'm not trying to take anything away from these. Well, I've got my, like I said, we just got tail whooped in tennis by our top female tennis player we were in high school, man. Like it just
even in track, and not just the running, but even the field events in track. You taking good girls that were really good in discus and shot put was kind of one of those that it was hard.
Well, that's because it's a muscle.
Correct.
It's more muscle than technique.
Discus is a technique, and so it's like they whip your tail in that.
Right. But again, when you get to that elite level, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Where it's not just technique; it's technique and.
If you look at a men's record versus a women,
that's a good point.
Golf.
Right.
Different tee boxes.
Right.
Women have a tee box, men have a tee box. The men's tee box is further than the women's tee box on every single golf hole.
Right.
It's not a. There's a reason.
Yep.
it's a per stroke game.
And I think most women agree with that too. They don't want to compete against a man. Especially when there's things like scholarships and that kind of stuff on a lot. They don't want to have to compete against men. And why should they have to? I think it's ludicrous.
I agree 100%.
You found anything?
Yeah, and not one like an official match, but Serena did face off against a man in an exhibition game, lost pretty handily.
And where was that man ranked?
Let's see that.
Let's say his name.
Brache? I don't know how to say that. 203 in the world, I just saw it. He was a 203rd ranked men's.
203rd.
Right there. I'm 203 in the world.
Yep.
And he beat her?
Yep.
That's what I'm getting at. And you're talking that's one of the best female tennis players ever.
Yeah, ever.
Ever.
Handily. Not in question.
Right.
GOAT.
Yeah. That's like going and talking about Michael Jordan.
Yep.
It just... and that's, you know, it's not taking it, like I said, that's the best women's tennis player, you know, possibly in the history of tennis. Freaking pouring myself on myself.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I knew there would be a gap.
Well, and it's just like I said. I mean, these guys are serving the ball so fast, man. Like it's ridiculous.
Reflexes,
Right?
You know,
fast twitch muscles. Right.
Ability to adjust.
Yep. And
Tendon strength.
And it's not even just that. They're trained. Like Serena Williams is not practicing to return a serve 130 mile an hour serve, right? She's practicing against people who are, or I can't say of her skill because there's really not that many women that know. And I'm sure she probably has some male counterparts that she practices against,
sure.
but she's not having to face that on a normal basis. You know, so she's been trained her entire life playing a sport against, you know what, I don't know how fast a woman serves a tennis ball, but it's not as fast as a man.
No, it's probably close to 100.
So she's not conditioned
20 plus miles
to have
difference.
those type of reflexes either. You know, so I mean, it just, you know, like I said, I don't want to go too. We already down this rabbit hole. I think further than we wanted to go, but you know, I think we're all pretty much in agreement on that.
Just want to throw in the match happened in 1998, sorry, and he actually faced off against both sisters. He defeated Serena 6-1 and Venus 6-2.
Right, so he beat both of them. Right.
203rd in the world.
Right. It wasn't like. Didn't happen like yesterday where they're a little bit older now. I mean, you talk
What
about...
year, what is it? You said?
1998.
98.
So probably in their prime, I'd imagine.
No, that's early.
Tennis prime's like teenage level.
Not for them, though.
But for most tennis players, it's like...
8 years ago is when they were winning their championships.
I think they were... How competitive were they then, bro?
That's 24 years ago.
Right, but like... Jared, I'm telling you, tennis players like their early 20s is like their prime.
That's my point.
Right.
So that's pre-prime, but still, they're not 50 years old.
Scroll up some. Hold up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go down. Yeah, I don't know how old they were then.
They're young.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. But they were probably better then than they are now.
I don't know if they. I don't know if I'd say they're better then than they are now.
I bet they were. Like
yeah, I mean they've had babies and yeah.
Right,
so,
right.
But what I'm saying is that I don't. That definitely wasn't in their prime, and I don't know because that dude again. That's 24 years ago. Yeah, she was 16.
Right, so that was the beginning of their pro career.
Yes.
Right. But again, I'm telling you, tennis pros start way earlier than you think.
16.
Man.
Yeah, 16 and 17 years old. They turned pro in '97.
Yeah, so a year after they turned pro.
Yeah, so they weren't ranked. Where they weren't the Venus and Serena sisters that you know of. They had just turned pro, so they had won no Grand Slams. They weren't ranked in the top whatever, right? You don't turn pro 1 year and then you're ranked top in the world. I mean, that's not how that.
I mean,
come on, Cody.
anyway, I don't want all this dead time.
Not with you.
Brennan can look all that. But,
so in 1998, she was ranked 36th in women.
Okay.
So I mean, it was not. She wasn't. She was
Right.
good. She was a pro athlete, but wasn't the Serena. Not again.
What I tell you is impressive. It is in their first year they're in the top 30. You know, I'm impressed with how good they were.
At 16 years old,
right? Like they're so freaking good, man.
That's like the little golf. The women's golf. LPGA.
Yeah.
Like a 16-year-old just won that.
Yeah, that's freaking.
And like golf is not. I I mean, it's an early person sport,
That's a hard sport, bro.
but it's something that
You got to put years and years and years. And,
the older, even like you look at Tiger, like who is the phenom of golf, right? Like even him, it was a mid-20s. It was
Right.
10 years of being pro, 8 years of being pro before he was like, wow,
becoming seasoned
yeah.
and right. Yeah.
She's winning the Masters not the Masters, but she won a tournament at 16 years old.
It's nuts, man.
Oh, golly. I can't, not that I'm an avid golfer, but,
That's impressive.
Yeah,
that's an impressive feat. It really
that's like
is.
my son's age.
Right.
Like, he's 16, like 17. It's like,
Yeah, that's impressive.
she's winning professional tournaments.
That's a lot. That's a lot of sacrifices that young lady's made to get to that. Like, I don't think people. I think our audience is smart enough.
I don't think most people realize.
But that's a lot of sacrifice
Does not
that those
happen
kids have
normal.
to make. No, you're not
Like, you
doing
don't
a job.
live.
You spend most of your time on a golf course. Right? Like you
Yeah.
just. That's a phenomenal.
You may
feat.
have a normal month of a year as a
Right.
16-year-old, but the other 11 months, you are
Oh, you're probably on a golf course.
grown.
Yeah, 90%
Like you're a
of
grown
your
person.
time,
You're
right.
doing everything that you're traveling. You're
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sacrifice their parents make too.
Oh.
With that,
I look at, not that we're going, we go everywhere, but the sacrifice that these travel sports parents do.
Oh, bro.
I love my kids, and if they were, and it's gonna sound really shitty, if they were really good, I'm making no sacrifices.
Right.
But if you're just like a good player, like you're gonna develop naturally and go through this, the normal progressions.
But see, there's I don't know how much you know about travel sports, but there's let's say you had the Pride Financial travel team where it's the best of your best that you have of kids that are on there that travel the furthest, go to the most tournaments, and then you're going to have 4 or 5 other
Correct.
teams of varying levels.
Farm club.
Right. So if your kids, I don't want to say just good, but if they're not on that elite squad, they're going to be on a team that's closer to their level, and those teams don't travel as far. They don't go to.
Oh, I get that. I'm
tournaments.
just talking
They don't-
about financially.
Oh, it's look. We did travel dance or competition dance for years with my daughter, and it was like little mini vacations we had to take.
Yeah.
Because it was going like we went all over the Gulf Coast,
Man, speaking of mini vacations,
going doing
I
that
didn't
kind
even
of
think
stuff.
about this until you just said it. And I want to definitely get your take on it.
Oh, here we go.
You know where I'm going with
I
this?
don't know. I could about
So
imagine.
you're a Disney guy.
I am a Disney guy.
So what's your take on this new Disney thing?
We're going to Universal this year. I'm serious.
I had just heard about this the other day. I guess Thursday or Wednesday, a couple days ago. And you were the first person I thought of. And I was like, I don't know a whole lot about it. I just read some clips and I just saw a couple.
Have you seen those videos?
I've seen a couple, like the executives and,
Yes.
and yeah, that's what I saw.
What she said, sprinkling gayness or something
Yep.
here, and you can put it wherever they can put it at.
Yep.
And, oh yeah, bro. Like,
And I was just going,
and I'm not like you know how I feel about homosexuality. I can care less if somebody's a homosexual. Like, more power to you. I don't care one bit. I think you deserve all the equal rights everyone else gets as a human being. Like, I do not care one bit if you want to be a homosexual, right? So I don't care about it. But I don't want any kind of sexual activity in
Disney movies.
Disney movies, right? Like, I don't even necessarily agree with like the whole kissing scenes from princes and princesses, and I understand it comes from a different time, but you know, I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be there. Like, you can still have the same storytelling and content without having that stuff.
And look, I agree with you 100%. And I believe, like, because again, I'm definitely feel that we need to be an inclusive society, and I'm okay
100%.
with the gay characters and like I get it, but to come out in like overtly do say we went over like I feel like, why do we have to feel like because as a society you've oppressed things and we've hidden things and swept under the rug and didn't discuss them and didn't make
overly
it obvious.
correct.
So why do you have to just make it part of the damn show? And if you're gay and you identify with that gay character, then great. Like that's fine.
But
why do you have to go
age group?
over the? Again, I think if it's there, and it's just like, hey, like.
But that's a conscious decision that you have to make as a showmaker. That I'm going to have this openly gay couple in my cartoon, right? Like that's a decision that you have to consciously make. Why?
The argument's why not?
Why at all for any of it?
Well, because if you're going to have a man and a woman in a show, that's going to be mom and dad are going to be,
but
so I mean that's what I'm saying is
the societal, and I know this is going to sound bad, but the societal norms, you're not going to have kids questioning that nucleus household, right?
I don't think you have kids questioning they grow up in a gay household.
I'm not the kids that are growing up in it. Don't misunderstand what I'm telling you. If your 5-year-old is watching a show and little Johnny's got 2 dads, that's not normal if those kids aren't growing up in that household. So they're going to ask those questions, right? And I'm not saying don't have that in your shows, but like at a certain age, right? When it's age appropriate to start having those questions asked to you as a parent, then I'm okay with it. But not like in a 3-year-old cartoon, right? Like we don't need.
But I mean, you're just splitting hairs because where do you stop a 3-year-old from watching a cartoon and a 6-year-old from watching? If they watch the same cartoon,
and I'm not saying.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm just throwing those things out there. I don't know what the answer is. I don't particularly like holding hands and kissing and that kind of stuff in a 3-year-old cartoon. Shouldn't be there for any.
It's a good argument,
right? Like that's how I feel about it. I don't care if it's a man and a woman and a woman, a man and a man. It doesn't need to be there. Those are conscious decisions, especially in a cartoon. You have to draw it.
Yes.
Right.
Or like digitally impose it.
Right. You were making that conscious decision to add sexuality to a children's program, and it doesn't need to be there.
That's kind of where I take a stance at, is that it doesn't. You don't have to have the explicit sexuality. Like if you want to have, 2 mommies, 2 daddies, like whatever that situation is to reflect the household that, the multitudes of different households, rock on. There is definitely not an abundance of public affection that goes on in a majority of households. You can just walk around in public and see that.
Right.
Whether you're, heterosexual, homosexual,
right.
When 90+% of people are out in public,
or
they're not overly affectionate.
Even in their own house. Like, you're not making out in front of your freaking kids like that, I mean, at least in my household, like, I'm not freaking...
You're a prude.
I'm not lip-locking and freaking tongue-swapping, with my wife in front of my children. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I guess, I'm not making out in front of my kids.
Right.
But, I mean, me and my wife...
You'll give her a peck, like
definitely,
a kiss. Right, right, of course.
Affection in front of our kids. But... I mean, even in public, if my wife and kids are at a restaurant and I show up, I greet my wife, hug, kiss her, like that's, and if that's what they're portraying, I'm okay with that. And so I don't know the level of, the interviews. That's what kind of, I guess I'll use the woke word. That's what triggered me. That it was so.
Deliberate.
It was so over the top. Like they were making this out like
wherever they can put it at.
Yeah, yes, and I was going like, why? Like again, I
don't remember which show it might have been. I'm trying to think of. Maybe it was Fireman Sam, or I'm trying to think. It's because it's been so long ago with Chance. One of those shows he watched. I think they had 2 dads in the deal. And he asked, and as a parent, I just told him that's, some households have 2 dads, just like you have a mom and a dad, and that was the end of it, right? But that's a conversation that as a parent, I want to have with my child, right? Like I don't want that. I don't want Disney to have that conversation with my child, or their teacher to have that conversation with my child, right? Like that's, as a parent, how I choose to address that. And I think that's what most people's problem is. And I get the whole over the top, like you're saying, and I agree with you on that. But the other side of it, with because all this was brought about by the parental rights and education bill that Florida put forward, and that's, Disney opposed it.
Catch me. I'm not 100%. I mean, I've seen the clips of the governor speaking about it.
So look, the bill is not it's not a very long read. It's not a very long bill. Basically,
What is it called?
Parental rights and education bill.
Pull it up real quick, Brennan, if you can.
And what did you have something on there, Brennan, you were trying to point out to us?
Not particularly. No.
Okay.
Sorry.
So basically, in a nutshell, what it says is that for ages kindergarten through third, a teacher cannot talk about any kind of sexual content with children.
What's the grade?
Kindergarten through third.
Okay.
They can't, and then it says that something along the lines of anything past that, it has to be age appropriate, approved by the education and state boards to have it. Because I think they do sex ed in Florida in like 6th grade or something. So
I think it's the same thing in Louisiana.
Right. So they can't. Those teachers can't have those conversations with those kids prior to that. That's all it says. It doesn't say anything about gay, or because they're trying to deem it as a "don't say gay" bill. That bill says nothing about homosexuality in it, not one bit. You can't have a heterosexual conversation in that bill with kids K through 3rd grade. That's all it says, and Disney's opposing that.
But this is that's nuts to me. But what's even the beginning of nutty is, why does it have to be a bill?
Because
why are we having conversations in school
I'm gonna tell you why.
with 3rd graders?
But that's why they have to have that bill, because these teachers are. They are having those conversations,
Well,
and the school boards around, not just in Florida but in other states too, are trying to push that type of education in those grade levels. So the state government had to step forward and say you can't do that.
But there's no approved like lesson plans or no approved curriculum.
No.
So
in some places yes, but in Florida, not that I know of. But you have advocates. Like I was watching, I don't know if it was CNN or one of those news agencies where they had an openly gay male teacher, like a 2nd grade teacher or something, and he was upset by this bill because he wasn't able to
talk about his husband.
Talk about his not just the fact that he had a husband. He couldn't talk about his weekend getaways with his husband to his kids in the class. And he was mad about that. Like, what do you, we go paddleboarding and we go, Mr. Johnny, what did you do this weekend? I went paddleboarding. Why do you have to go anything past that? Or some of our teachers when we were kids, mind your own business, right? Like, I don't understand why you have to go past. Why do you have to go past? I went paddleboarding.
So, being from an educator, I will say this: it's not just as an educator, but even in business and in the more you can connect with your audience on a personal basis, the easier it is to have information flow both ways. But you can easily have those same connections and not get overtly into all of the particulars of the conversation.
But this bill also doesn't say that if you're gay you can't have those conversations with your kids.
Yeah,
it says that
you can't. Nobody
teachers can, right?
Yeah.
And heterosexual, homosexual, asexual, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't have those conversations of a sexual nature with
what is deemed a sexual
through
nature?
3rd grade.
Is that defined?
It is defined in the state law, and I don't know the particulars
because again, if little Johnny says, Mr. Johnson, how was your weekend? And he says, my weekend was great. And he says, what did you do? And if he says, well, me and my husband went paddleboarding. Okay, great.
And I think he can say that, but if the kid says,
"What about your husband?"
What do you mean you have a husband? At that point, I think he has to shut it down. But it's the same thing when if me and my wife went paddleboarding. Well, what do you mean your wife? That same teacher has to shut that down. They can't go past that. That's you need to go home and ask your parents, and then you move on, right? Like you don't. It doesn't stipulate just homosexual. It doesn't stipulate just transsexual or just it doesn't stipulate any of that. The same rules apply across the board to all teachers. Like it's a very common sense type of bill. One of the few. Like some of these bills that you read are so indoctrined with $50 words that it's hard to follow. This one's not. Like it's a little 2-minute read. Like it's not a huge bill at all.
What is it again?
The Parental Rights and Education Bill.
Rights.
You probably have to put bill behind it. If you Google "don't say gay" bill, it's hard to find. It's harder to find because they don't want you reading the actual bill.
Another bill you're looking for?
Let's see.
It's HB 1557.
Yeah, I think that's it, Brian. Let's see.
I think you summed it up pretty well. The key word is prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity.
But that's not. Yeah, I think it's that, and the actual bill itself that I read was it was longer than that.
Okay.
Like it specified K through third. It was. But part of the problem, Jared, to answer your question, that some of these school districts was having is they were having guest speakers come talk to kindergarten classes that were transgender, and reading transgender books to them. You had and I don't remember what they called it, but it was it wasn't transgender story time, but I think that's kind of what it was deemed by the politicians, but. But you had those type of things. You had the cross dressers coming in and reading books about cross dressing to second graders, and all that bill says is that you can't talk about any of that stuff. Like you can't anything sexual like that. You can't talk to.
You can have a transgender person come read a book.
They can.
You just can't read a book about sexual orientation or gender.
Right. You can have a transgender teacher. They just can't talk about their transgender stuff to a third grader, or a second grader, or a kindergartner, or K through third. You can't a fourth grader for some reason. I think I don't think the bill goes far enough. But in fourth grade, I guess they can have those conversations. Which to me, that should be a conversation that the parents have. Or send a permission slip home or something. I don't know what the exact. But I don't want my kids learning about that. I want my kids learning their ABCs, in kindergarten. I want them learning, how to read and math and those type of issues. When they get to social studies and civics and those type of things, then you start talking about laws and or any kind of a philosophical class that you have in high school, have at it.
Yeah.
Right? Have at it. But not K through third. Come on, man. And that's the hill that Disney's trying to go down right now. They're trying to say they're gonna fight it in court. And DeSantis said, "Oh yeah, well, that special government thing that y'all have, where y'all your own little government in Disney World. Yeah, go ahead and fight that if you want. We're gonna take that away from you."
Yeah.
So they got a big old political bullcrap. I just want to go ride Peter Pan. I don't want.
Peter Pan was gay.
I don't care. I don't care one bit. I just want to go ride my freaking rides. Dude, look, I went to Disney during the air quote gay week, right? You can't tell. I don't care. I said, You can't. It's not like going to New Orleans during gay week.
I was about to say.
Right? It's not like assless
I've been to
chaps
Southern Decadence, and that's,
you know, right, decadence is different.
Yeah.
Decadence is different. The only issue I had during our gay week in Disney, and it could have happened anywhere or any time. It wasn't just because it was gay week. It just so happened to be during that. Was we were in line to see Olaf. Ever tell you that story? Mm-mm. So me and my wife and I only had 2 kids at the time. We're in line to go see Olaf, and 2 bearded gentlemen were in front of us, tongue swapping, making out in line, and you know, it got to a point where I was like, I said, excuse me, guys, like I really don't care that you guys are together. Me and my wife don't make out in front of our kids. We're in line to see Olaf. Can y'all maybe like wait till y'all are not in line to see a children's character before y'all make out? And I got a look. I said, we're not going there, bro. Like, I'm just asking nicely that if y'all can please stop tongue swapping in front of my children. I can care less about the orientation thing. I don't care, you know. And they were mad that I asked them to stop making out. And like I said, it could have been a man and a woman making out. I'd have said that same conversation. Like, please stop making out in front of my children. Like, it's not a proper thing to do. But that was the only, and like I said, it could have happened during any time. If we had been told it was gay week, I would have been able to tell in Disney, you know.
It wasn't extra rainbowy?
No, it wasn't. There weren't like gay pride marches and all that stuff during, you know, it was just, I guess, a week that most gay people went to Disney for some reason. I don't know why. We just happened to be there during the same time. But when you hear about gay week, because we're from the South and we have New Orleans and decadence is a whole different level, that's what you would expect when you're in Disney. It's not the case. Not at all. Like, I would go back during gay week. It wasn't. I even hate calling it gay week, but that's right. But like if I found a good deal during gay week, hey, we going, right? Like, it doesn't bother me at all. I just, you know, like I said, the only instance we had was the 2 dudes lip locking.
Yeah.
In line for.
And I don't even know why Disney, because again, you can be 100% inclusive,
right,
and still, like, I would take this bill and spin it, right? Like if I was in Disney's shoes and embrace it, right, and saying this is all they're saying, like, right, like, so we can still make cartoons and we can still make characters that fit all of these things, and use the bill to show that you can still be inclusive and still not be overreaching when it comes to what certain people want to teach and not teach their kids.
But that's not where they went with it at all.
You know,
but they came completely out against it. I'm sure Brennan can pull up. Some of the statements that Disney's made, but it's completely against it. They're threatening to take legal action against the state of Florida, and you know, so of course Florida's fighting back, and they're you know, we'll take away your government special status, and it just, I don't know, bro. Like, I just like I said, I just want to go visit the mouse with my kids, man. Like, I don't stay out of politics. Let the politicians be political.
Well, look, and if you're going to be political, you know, be political about, you know, the food you serve. Be political about the things that control people's health and welfare, right? Not about what well, they have to. They sell this. Like, I would be like, if Florida was coming across and saying that, you know, did not have what was regulating food. Right, saying, "Hey, look, if you like they regulated vending machines and shit." Like,
you're talking about if Florida came out and said you can't serve hamburgers.
Correct,
because like, well, hold on, my people want to buy hamburgers.
Correct,
yeah, because that affects their bottom line.
Exactly,
100%.
That's what I'm saying, and it's about health and welfare and well-being of their, you know. So, or if they said, "Look, you know, you have to start serving, you know, this specific lines of food to." Or if Disney was taking a stance, if Santos was like, you know what, we can, you know, every soda has to be 32 ounces. And Disney's like, well, we don't want to serve 32-ounce sodas. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I can understand.
If you're doing that, like, I get it, but you're fighting things that.
But you model your company behind being wholesome children's programming, and you're fighting a bill that wants to keep sexual talks out of K through 3rd. Like, I don't understand that side of, like, the.
Somebody's got to tell me why we're having sexual conversations with K through third in general.
That's most people's view on it, man. Like I agree 100% with you. Like I don't understand why we even need to have those conversations at all. And look, I'm of the opinion, like if Mr. Johnson was asked by a kid, "What'd you do this weekend?" Me and my husband went paddleboarding, and a kid asked, well, "What do you mean you have a husband? That's something you need to go talk to your parents about." And left that, my kid came home and said, "Mr. Johnson was talking about his husband." Well, hold on. What do you mean he was talking about his husband? Well, he said him and his husband went paddleboarding. Oh, okay. All right. Well, now I, as a parent, have control of the amount of information my child's getting on that. Does that make sense? Like I'm even fine with Mr. Johnson saying he's got a husband. I don't care.
I think the bill doesn't say he can't say that.
No, he just can't discuss it.
He can talk about his family. He can
right.
talk about his husband, wife. Like, he can talk about his kid being transgender, right? Like that is, you just can't get into
specifics.
Correct.
Right. And you can't have lessons about it.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's why I said I don't understand why Disney's.
Because that's what it says, that you can't speak specifically. It doesn't say you can't mention it.
Right.
It doesn't say you can't address it. You just can't get into detail about it.
Right.
You can't have overt and obvious conversations.
Right. Like you can't make it the central of your lesson
Yeah.
plan. Right. Right. Like I don't understand even why this is such a big controversial bill. Like I don't get it.
Why is it? It's kind of common sense.
You want to talk about what should be controversial?
I mean,
look how many pedophiles are arrested from Disney employees. Go look at that.
I mean,
that
wouldn't surprise me though.
Right.
It would not surprise me at all.
But we're going to Universal this year.
Yeah. It's funny you said that because I just saw it was about that whole the Disney thing, and that comment came up about how many pedophiles have been arrested that were Disney employees. And it was a little video, and the same guy says, "You know what makes me sick?" He says that if a dog hurts a kid, we kill the dog.
Right.
And he just left it at that, and it was like,
things that make you go,
And dogs don't know better.
Right. Right.
So it's like, I get it, But oh man, yeah, that wasn't even one of the things we talked. When you just said vacation, that clicked in my brain because I read that the other day and I was like, I need to talk to Cody about that.
Yeah, dude, like I don't get it, man.
Yeah, the things that you die on a sword for, it just kind of, some of the things just go, like what? Okay,
right. Well, and this is, I know we're not a Disney podcast, but there's been a lot more than just this. That like Disney's just making some bad decisions, in my opinion, for the core of the people who buy tickets. For example, like it started for me anyway, and I'm sure it probably started before this, but for me, going to Disney World every year for like the last 6 or 7 years, the first step in my kind of like, I can't believe they're doing this, was Disney charging to park at their resorts. If you're a customer there already, so you already have to pay for your room, right? And now you have to pay to park your car in their parking lot. So that was like the first little step towards I guess greed.
So that's not greed, right? That's control. They don't want you to drive and park. They want you to take the public transportation. So
No.
I understand because it's
to drive from my house to Disney.
Correct.
Park my vehicle in their parking lot.
Correct.
And they charge extra money for that.
Correct, because they don't want you to do that. They want you to take the transportation.
How am I gonna get there?
How you get where? From your resort.
No. How do I get from my house to Disney if I don't drive my car?
I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying to park at the resort?
Yes. Not at the park. At the resort.
At the hotel.
At the hotel.
Correct.
You drive
in. That's what they want. They don't want all the extra vehicles. They don't want all the extra emissions. They don't want all the extra. It's not a Disney thing.
It's a parking lot.
I'm aware of what it is. I'm just telling you what
that's costing you like for a week. It's like $7,000 to stay at like a medium or low level resort at Disney. and
What's the difference with the airport?
and then they're charging
You
me.
got to pay to park when you go to the airport.
Yeah, but that like those are patrolled, and those are
No, they're not.
yeah, they are. Yes, they are. Yeah, they
Okay.
are. And I'm also not paying to stay at the airport. Like you know, and I get all that, but you're talking about for years, it was just parking. It didn't cost you anything to park at the resort, right? To where they said, okay, well, I guess I can make a whole lot more money now if I charge these people they're already driving
Sure.
in, and I'm charging money.